And welcome everybody. We are here today to talk. This is the last episode of our spring series. So everybody that's on here, if you go back to our website, mndnr.gov/discover, and click on the registration for the summer series, we have some great programs coming up this summer. So I hope to see you back again. Um, my name is Benji Cohn, and just a little different thing today. We open a polling question right at the beginning, so we have two questions in there. If everybody wants to jump on the polling, you can find those in the lower right-hand corner under the ellipsis, and play along with us. We'll see what we get, what kind of fun answers we get. So, I think with that, Lisa, thank you so much for coming, Lisa Luokkala. If I got the last name right, joined the Spear Hiking Trail Association in 2020. You've been a resident of Duluth for over 18 years, in both working in the nonprofit and the public sector. She currently serves on the Society of Outdoor Recreation Professionals Board of Directors, along with the Duluth Tourism Advisory Council and the Duluth Area Outdoor Alliance. Prior to her time with the Superior Hiking Trail, she served as a senior parks planner for the city of Duluth. And if you've been around Duluth, you guys have some fantastic parks up there. So thank you for all your work in that. I love that area up there. She does hold a master's degree in advocacy and public or political leadership from the University of Minnesota Duluth and a bachelor in travel and tourism from Eastern Michigan University. And I joked with her earlier, she's a Youper. So Upper Peninsula, Michigan, one of my favorite places to go visit. I love it up there. So Lisa's life path, I guess, is shaped by the abundant access and a love of green space. She and her family rarely venture too far from the Great Lakes region because there's just so many amazing places to visit in northern Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP. We'll include that too because it's a pretty special area. So, Lisa, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit of information to help you plan your trip on the Superior Hiking Trail and share a little bit of history, maybe some lesser known facts about the trail itself.
Yeah, I was just going to interrupt you real quick. The polling questions are open. Have you hiked the Superior Hiking Trail before? 34 have not, and 29 have that have answered the questions so far. And are you planning to visit this summer? We have a lot of people that are planning on visiting this summer, so you're going to get some great tips to enjoy the trail. So
great, wonderful. Well, let's get started. So there's me and my dog. We are at the northern terminus here on the Superior Hiking Trail. And thank you, Benji, for the really nice introduction. As I mentioned, I'm going to start with a brief history and overview of the trail, just kind of orientate ourselves where we are and what we're doing and why we do this work. So the Superior Hiking Trail is essentially, we are a 300-mile footpath along the rocky ridge line of Lake Superior along the North Shore. We are on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, with two tribal sovereign communities near each one of our terminus. And the entirety of our trail falls within the ceded territories of the 1854 Treaty of the Lake Superior Chippewa. The trail extends from the Wisconsin border southeast of Jay Cooke State Park. And the trail continues along the North Shore of Lake Superior and passes through 8 state parks, along with the Superior National Forest. The trail arrives at its northern terminus, located at 270-degree overlook above the Pigeon River at the Canadian border. The trail is really characterized by a sense of rocky outcroppings and cliffs as high as 1,800 feet above sea level and descends into numerous river and creek valleys. Now, here's some fast stats on the trail. As I mentioned, 300 miles. We have 94 free backcountry hike and only campsites, along with 60 different access points, some within those state parks and some outside. We work with over 200 landowners. So the Superior Hiking Trail is really what I call a social contract amongst many, many landowners to provide access to nature along the North Shore. And the trail itself is managed and maintained by the nonprofit, the Superior Hiking Trail. We are not, I think a lot of people mistaken us as a state trail. We are not. We are a separate entity and hold management agreements with each one of those individual landowners. We are member supported and volunteer powered and have a really rich history, grassroots history that I'll talk about a little bit more. And uniquely, this past year, we conducted our first ever trail count, and we have over 400,000 visit users each season from May through November. So lots of visitors on the trail. The trail itself came to be, it was really born out of a love of both hiking and the North Shore. Originally envisioned through a feasibility study of the Forest Service to construct a long distance trail, very similar to other popular long distance trails that were being built at the time across the country, like the Appalachian Trail, envisioning this trail from Duluth to Thunder Bay. So the association was formed in 1986 to oversee the building and the care of the trail and to collaborate with all the public landowners and private landowners to make the trail a reality. It was built primarily by contractors and volunteers in the 90s and 2000s, and started on the northern and kind of worked our way south. We received a lot of funding originally from the Legislative Citizens Commission of Minnesota Resources, LCCMR. Some of you might be familiar with those fundings, and the Minnesota Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund. They helped with the original onset of some of those trail segments, and that continues to be a really important funding source for us today. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about our history, we have a wonderful book that was written by one of our original board members, member Rudy Hagemeyer's book, The Superior Hiking Trail Story, and that's available on our website. We have a trail store, so we'll provide the link here in the chat if that is something of interest to you. Since it was finished, the trail, the association has really refocused on giving the trail the love it needs to stay in great shape and restoring and improving the sections and structures that have been worn out and need of renewal. The trail has grown in visitorship over the years. As I mentioned, we see a lot of hikers, but we also see new sports emerging on the trail, like trail running. We have foragers and birders, day hikers, through hikers, a lot of people using the trail to bring out youth groups and do educational programming. So we now see tens of thousands of visitors each year. Well, it's a lot of demand on us as a small nonprofit to maintain this very large recreational resource, but we do that with a lot of help from our state and federal funding partners, along with local volunteers. And just to give you a picture of what our volunteers are up to out there, we are often putting a lot of effort into taking care and maintaining the trail. We have over 460 volunteers annually who contribute over 8,000 hours on the trail. So they do this by adopting a section of trail that they commit to go out and lop and clear, make sure there's no downed trees or debris, and report any major issues with their section. We also have campsite adopters who adopt one of our 94 backcountry campsites to maintain. And then we have these wonderful work parties where people come out, as pictured above, to work together, camp together, and build community around the trail. We also do a lot of other behind the scene things, but it's not as riveting for me to show you pictures of us stuffing, spring appeal envelopes. So did not include that. But aside from the trail itself, in what's out there, really the trail is a community as much as it's a physical trail. And it's made up of those dreamers and through hikers and business owners along the North Shore and people who in some cases live right off the trail and use that every day right out their own backyard. So I think the main takeaway here is that the experience that happen on the trail are really, it feels pretty magical when you're out there, but they're very highly orchestrated by those working behind the scenes to make sure that this recreational resource is available and accessible to all who want to enjoy it. I also love to tell people, and this is maybe a little lesser known fact, that we are part of an even larger trail system. In 2019, the Superior Hiking Trail officially became part of the larger North Country National Scenic Trail. And our 300 miles of trail helped the North Country Trail make a critical connection in their 5,000-mile footpath from Vermont to North Dakota. So that means when you're on the Superior Hiking Trail, you are technically also on the North Country Trail, or if you want to extend your experience, you can keep going on either end. A critical relationship for the Superior Hiking Trail is the 200 plus land owners and public land managers that we have to work with to create the trail corridor. So our big partners, as you can imagine, are the Forest Service, Minnesota DNR. We also go through the city of Duluth, 42 miles. We work with our county partners as well. Without these partnerships and permissions for the trail to cross their lands, the trail truly just wouldn't exist. So an important thing you can do as a user to help is to respect those landowners by staying on the trail and practicing leave no trace to reduce your impact while you're out there. And today I'm going to give you some helpful tips of how to practice leave no trace. So what will your experience be once you hit the trail? Well, one of our goals is to provide you as much clear, easy navigation tools as possible. So here we are at the southern terminus, where one side of that sign says Minnesota, the other one says Wisconsin. We create clear signage throughout the trail. Blue blazes, as you can see on the tree, are an indication that you are on the Superior Hiking Trail main trail. We also have a white blaze system to indicate our spur trails along the way. You'll also see directionals along with these blazes in key areas that might be confusing or a trail intersection. When you arrive at a trailhead, you will see a trailhead marker similar to this. As I mentioned, there's over 60 trailhead parking areas to start your adventure. Many of them allow overnight parking for backpacking trips, though you'll also need a state park pass in some cases to access some of them. So you'll need to know before you go. I'm going to show you how to navigate our website to find out some of that information, and also some of the publications that you can learn a little bit more about which trailheads you can access in which way. We'll also provide trip planning resources to make sure you're prepared before you go, and we'll show you those in a moment here. But to start off with some inspiration, I love sharing this quote. This quote was written by the executive director of the Minnesota Land Trust, one of our really great partners for the trail. And he wrote this as a foreword for our most recent guidebook. The Superior Hiking Trail is much more than a footpath. It is a gateway to peace and inspiration for those who want to experience its rugged beauty. And whether it's just for a few quiet hours or a long through hike, spending time on the trail can awaken a conservation ethic within us, sending us home with a new sense of purpose to care for the natural world around us, no matter where we live. And that's what I love about the trail, is it creates this ripple effect of how we want to live our lives and how we want to take care and preserve our public lands. The trail is largely a rocky ridgeline, but you will only touch the lake a few times. This is one section in this picture here, what's referred to as the Lake Walk, which is north of Grand Marais, towards the northern sections of our trail. The big lake obviously impacts so much of the environment through the trail, which it passes, but oftentimes you're going to be experiencing the lake from a distance, usually through a vista or an overlook along the trail. A more frequent encounter with water will be the hundreds of rivers and streams and creeks that the trail passes and crosses. In the early days of the SHT, we really focused on building from vista to water crossing to vista. So the idea is just trying to capture as many high points and overlooks as possible. So you should expect to cross many creeks and climb many peaks throughout the trail. You can also expect to see some raging waterfalls in the spring at places like Gooseberry Falls State Park, High Falls and Tetagooch State Park, the Brule River at Judge Magny State Park. And when you're not passing through water in motion, you'll be meandering along many resting bodies of water in the forms of inland lakes, beaver ponds, and ephemeral pools. And in between those close-up encounters with water, as I mentioned, the SHT climbs to peaks and vistas that allow you to admire them from afar. Many of our SHT campsites are located near these lakes or rivers or water supplies, so you can have a reliable source of water for backpacking. And speaking of backpacking, we provide, as I mentioned, 94 primitive backcountry campsites that are all hike-in only. They are shared campsites, and that is a little unique, I think, to some of us, new concept. So that means there's no reservation or permits, but it also means that it's all come, all serve. So it's designed to accommodate section and through hikers. The campsites are spaced in appropriate lengths along the trail to accommodate people who are traveling along the trail and not necessarily staying in one site for multiple days. Every campsite features a fire pit, a latrine, and several tent pads. They are designed to be single night use only, as you should be moving on to hopefully the next beautiful campsite along the way. So that was a lot of inspiration and what you're going to see. Now I'm going to turn our attention to how we can safely and enjoyably access the trail. And while our goal is to provide opportunities for users to connect to nature, we also want to make sure that people are really prepared for this experience. It can be rugged and remote in many places. One of the best things you can do is follow leave no trace principles and know before you go. Know before you go is a principle of leave no trace. It's a set of principles that all outdoor users should follow. Planning ahead and prepare. The most important step to avoid impacting the landscape is to be prepared for what you should encounter on the trail. Know your camping arrangements ahead of time and what you'll encounter on the trail. You should also be researching and making sure that you have the right gear and appropriate, and then your trail section that you're choosing and the distance is appropriate to your skill level. You should be carrying a map. That's very important. I think particularly with technology and cell phones, a lot of people are reliant only. We do recommend a paper map as well. You should also be checking our website for recent trail conditions. So we will post if there are closures along the trail, if there's reroutes, if there is, for instance, any sort of fire restriction, which we've had in the past due to area drought, that will all be posted on our website. And it's usually updated weekly. So you would have the most up-to-date information. So you might want to check it multiple times before you head out on your trip. Travel, another important part of know before you go is to travel and camp on durable surfaces only. So I think oftentimes folks think that the best way to get around a mud hole is to walk around it, but the best thing for the trail and for the environment is for you to walk right through it, to reduce the damage, further damage of the area. So that's just one example. Disposing properly of waste, we practice pack it in, pack it out, which means that you are responsible for carrying everything in and out. There are no garbage cans or service, not even at trailheads. So we ask that you take it with you. This includes food scraps and toilet paper if a latrine is not available. And we also ask you to leave what you find. So please don't take anything from the trail. Don't cut names into trees. Be mindful of invasive species. Use a boot brush or other devices to clean your gear before and after your trip, so you're not part of the spread. We also ask people to minimize their campfire impacts. On the Superior Hiking Trail, the campfires are only allowed at designated fire rings, and there's one ring per campsite. You are meant to share that with everyone who is there with you. We do not, we ask you to not build new campfire rings. We often have to spend quite a bit of time taking care of rogue campfire rings every year. And we prefer if you leave your impact, consolidate your impact to that one campfire. We also ask you to respect wildlife, and one of the best ways that you can do that is to keep your dog on leash if you have your dog with you. It is a rule of the trail and the law of the land in many sections. So if you can make an effort to bag your dog's waste as well, that's really important. And we also do ask you to be considerate of other visitors. Remember that people are out there, there's many people out there enjoying the trail in many ways. Some are hiking, some are running, some are meandering and spending, half a mile per hour. Our trail is shared and beloved resource, and please treat people with respect. Our campsites must be shared, like I said, with others. And we ask that people not use things like Bluetooth or other loudspeakers on the trail or campsites to preserve a more serene wilderness experience. So how can you learn more and how do we provide that information? Well, we have a lot of information. We provide publications in the form of our maps, a guidebook, and data book. And those are all available for purchase on our store. We also do have an online map that can be purchased through Avenza, and that allows you to have your map on your phone. It will be downloadable, and it'll always be updated even when we do updates to the trail or reroutes, changes. That alignment will forever update on your application on the phone. So that's a really helpful tool. Our website is very expansive. I'm going to go through some ways to get you started on it today. And we also have a pretty good social media following, and we try to get the word out. If you don't follow us and you are on social media, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. It's a great way to find out if there are any alerts, upcoming events that you want to take part in, etc. We also provide a lot of engagement tools that are online. After the pandemic, I think we all knew, or the pandemic revealed to us, that we should really be reaching out to people through this larger platform. So people are tuning in from all over the country to learn about our trail, which is exciting. And so we have been hosting trainings and events. We have a very active YouTube channel, and we'll drop that link into the chat as well. It is essentially a resource video library where you can click through and find topics such as SHT 101, that's going to go even deeper into trip planning for you. We have a through hiking specific webinar if you're considered or interested in learning more about that. We have a section hiking webinar to kind of tell the story of how one couple were able to break up the whole trail into weekend-long section hikes. We have resources about foraging, the night sky on the Superior Hiking Trail, and we also recently partnered with Las Latinas, a Twin City-based nonprofit, to host our first ever Superior Hiking Trail 101 webinar in Spanish. Many folks decide to make a goal of hiking the entire trail, which I think is great. And some folks accomplish this in one summer, and others, it can take 20 years. But we love to recognize this accomplishment. And so we provide what's called the End-to-Ender program. And you can find more about this on our website as well. But essentially, we've had people, groups of women in their 70s who've completed the trail, who section hiked over a decade. We had people who have started to lose their sight and been able to work with friends to accomplish the goal of completing the trail. We've heard so many wonderful stories, and we love to honor and recognize each one of those stories. So if you have someone also that you know who completed the trail, but maybe hasn't reported it to us, we can still send them along a certificate if they want to contact us, and we can celebrate that with them. In addition, if you're not ready to tackle the whole trail, we do offer a Superior Hiking Trail challenge, 50-mile challenge. And this is just a unique engagement opportunity so we can encourage people to get out. We have on our website, which I believe dropped into the chat as well, the link, some suggested day hikes to meet your 50-mile goal. We also have some kid-friendly activity worksheets on that webpage as well. And our goal really is to introduce people to the trail, and maybe, sometimes it's fun to have a summer goal. 50 miles, pretty doable over a couple weekend trips. So getting on the trail, let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like in detail here on our website. The best way to find a hike that meets your location and distance and skill level is by visiting our website and exploring the various sections. So here is a screenshot of our trail section webpage. From there, you can click on the section you are most interested in exploring. For the sake of this presentation, we will explore the 2 harbors to Silver Bay by hovering. You would hover on that section arrow and click on that. It'll take you to a more detailed page of information that will look like this. As you can see, it says 2 harbors to Silver Bay on top. It'll give the total mileage and the sections that are within the subsections, which are within that segment of trail. From there, you could look and see if there's any, looks like there's a trail alert, letting you know of just what you'll experience on the trail. From there, let's take a look at the Lake County Road 301 to Castle Danger. We'll go a layer deeper into the website here. So this is what you'll see. You'll see the section labeled on top, the length, and if there are any campsites in that section. So this might be a better day hiking or incorporate it into a longer through hike or section hike, but no campsites available on this one. It provides directions to the trailhead to access this section, a description of what you would experience as well. Note that we have maps on this section to help you orientate, but this is not a navigational map. We encourage you to purchase navigational maps, or like I said, to download them on your phone through the Venza app. Let's make sure that you get there safely. You'll see that there'll be click-throughs where you can go and purchase various maps for the sections. Another area that can help you with your trip planning is our very robust online trail community. This resource is a public resource. The platform is Facebook, so you do need to be a Facebook member, but our Superior Hiking Trail public group has nearly 60,000 members. It is moderated by the Superior Hiking Trail communications staff, along with volunteers from our organization. So this is where you can ask very specific questions that you might have to your needs or issues to help you get on the trail. So feel free to use this resource, post questions. A lot of times folks will also be providing real-time updates of what they saw or experienced on the trail. So if there's, a muddy section of trail, folks like to report that. If there is, a trail sign down at one of the trailhead parking lots, those are the things that people will post and share. So choosing your location and length of the trail can be a bit overwhelming if you're just getting started. And oftentimes the best way to gauge your comfort level is to do what's called an out and back hike, which allows you to take a lot of flexibility getting used to hiking on the trail. It is a lot more rugged than some other areas in the state, I will say. And it's definitely an adjustment if you're more accustomed to being on paved paths or sidewalks. The terrain and elevation are also things to consider, and this information can be found under those additional segment descriptions on our website. There is some negative feelings about the turnaround type of hike or experience on the trail, but don't listen to those people. Out and backs are great. You actually experience the trail very differently, facing the other way, heading the other direction on your way back. It can be very rewarding, and you get two perspectives of the trail. It also allows you to not have to consider or worry about shuttle services or drop-offs. So here's a photo of the section of trail in Finland, Minnesota, between Lake County Road 6 and Lake County Road 7. This is an area that we renewed a failing boardwalk, which is on the left. And we're in the process of improving, a lot of parts of our trail, but I like to show this picture because there's still some of that old boardwalk or infrastructure on the trail. We are working, like I said, through our renewal process to make things a little bit more up to date, safe and accessible, like on the right. So this is a reminder, like I said, to do your homework on the various sections before you go, so you know what to expect. Each section of our trail brings its own unique features and in some cases, challenges. I also like to point out that the trail is not limited to just summer and fall. The winter has become a very popular time of year for people to access the trail, whether it be hiking or trail running or snowshoeing, particularly this last year, which was a very low snow year. But with that low snow came new challenges, which was an icy conditions, which people are maybe a little less familiar with as well. So tens of thousands of our users are out there on the trail annually exploring. And while our mission hasn't changed, connecting people via footpath to nature, our approach to the work has changed dramatically over the years. Not long ago, people didn't really know what the Superior Hiking Trail was, where it was. And so much of our time was spent trying to educate people and encourage people, advertise essentially for people to come up on the North Shore and check out our trail. And now here we are nearly 40 years later after our Genesis story began, and we are a nationally recognized long trail that regularly gets mentioned in national or sometimes even international publications. And our iconic blue blaze and our logo are known throughout Minnesota, and really the the Midwest. So here at the Superior Hiking Trail Association, we are regularly assured that our users and members are headed in the right direction as far as stewards of this amazing recreational resource. I will say that we will always ask and encourage people to think of how they can become part of the trail community. The trail provides unparalleled access to the North Shore, and it's a truly unique recreational asset. I would just encourage you to consider how you might want to get involved. Even if you've never been on the trail before, one of the best ways to get to know the trail is to volunteer on it. Like I said, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities, and we'll provide a link as well in the chat on how you can get involved. You can also join us by becoming a member. The trail is free to use, accessible 24/7 to anyone. And we love providing that for everyone in the state of Minnesota and elsewhere, visitors from afar. It does come at a really hefty price to us. And so even a small membership, many hands make light work, and we can protect this wonderful recreational resource into the future. I encourage you also to visit our website to sign up for our e-newsletter, Trail Mix. Trail Mix is a great way that you can stay in touch with us and find out about upcoming guided hikes. We have our work parties, as I mentioned, and other activities that are happening in and around the North Shore. So thank you for having me today. If you, like I said, if you're not part of the association, please visit the website here and we can be connected. Stewardship can come in a lot of many forms, and we're happy to find a fit that's right for you. And now we'll take Q&As, and I'll be able to answer maybe more detailed questions about your upcoming trail plans, trip plans.
Lisa, I wish I would have had this information 20 years ago when I was doing a lot more hiking up on the Superior Hiking Trail, but it's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that. So,
Yeah.
and for everybody out there that knows that I've traveled, had the good fortune to travel quite a bit across the country and done a lot of pretty cool things. I've hiked parts of the Appalachian Trail, parts of the Continental Divide Trail, parts of the North Country Trail, which include the Superior Hiking Trail and also the Border Route Trail in Minnesota. The Superior Hiking Trail is probably the best marked trail with friendly people on it that I've been on anywhere. So it's really a fun place to visit, and the scenery is spectacular. So hopefully, even if I've never through hiked any of the trails, but I've both extended backpacking trips for 5 or 6 days and just day hikes. And it's a great way to see a part of the state that you're not going to see from your car. So get out there and enjoy it for sure. So if you want to take your presentation down, and we'll get to some questions on here. You might have answered some of these, but Wiped was wondering, I know it's hard, but do you encourage people to stay on the trail and keeps dogs on the leash? I think you covered that pretty well, right? So Sabrina was wondering about fishing. Is fishing allowed on streams and lakes?
Yeah, I mean, just the same restrictions, fishing season restrictions as the rest of Minnesota. So you can visit Minnesota DNR website to learn more. But yes, most everything. We don't really provide a lot of information about good fishing spots. Necessarily, that's not something that we the Trail Association does, but probably a quick Google search might lead to some suggestions on specifically, creek and river fishing.
It's a good DNR spot to visit. So we got a great site on fishing. Learn fishing on our site, or go to the Rec Finder. And a shameless plug for this program, the Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Program. Visit our website. Our summer programs include 2, I think, really relative topics this summer. One is North Shore fishing. Jason's going to join us and talk about fishing on the North Shore that you can access from the Superior Hiking Trail, and also orienteering for fun and for competition. So Lisa brought up, being prepared with maps. Well, in our summer series in August, we're going to talk about how to read maps and how to become a better, more proficient orienteer. So sign up for those 2 programs if you're interested in going up there. So John is wondering, this is a good question, is like in the Boundary Waters is a limit on number of people. So is there a limit on how many people can be in a group on the Superior Hiking Trail?
We ask that large groups, we have a large group registration form. And so if you are a private group of people going out, large friend group, we do ask for more group size more than 8 to register with us. One, so that we know what your trip plans are and how that might impact some of the other camping availability. We also, work with a lot of outfitters and youth groups who are going out. We try to provide trip planning advice and experience for them. So if there is a group that's larger than 8, we recommend that people break into 2 different campsites. And so that requires people to have to do some additional trip planning, identifying campsites where we might have 2 that are coupled fairly close together so their group can break into multiple sites. And then, of course, there are events that happen on the Superior Hiking Trail where people are, there's trail running events and things like that, that people are typically not at the campsites necessarily, but you might see larger numbers of people on the trail. We do ask that everyone let us know who's out there. One, for us to just tell our story of how the trail is being used and the impact that's having, but also for management. We share that information with our land manager, and then the land manager, for instance, the Minnesota DNR, they would provide a permit if there is a for-profit, like say a trail run happening. The permitting is actually through the land manager, not through the Trail Association.
That's great information. Blake was also wondering, how do we report any problems on the trail if you're out there hiking and come across something?
Yeah. Well, similar to anywhere you are ever, if you feel threatened, unsafe, or you see something illegal, call 911. So that's the go-to. We do have a trail incident report form on our website. It's on the bottom of our main page, so people can easily access that and provide us up-to-date information. So for instance, a bridge is out. You're there, you can provide a GPS point, photos, and a description of the issue. And then that is sent to our trail operations director, and he can get out there to check it out or send a volunteer out to assess the damages. So it's super helpful. I think people often will go to that Facebook page first to say what they saw on the trail, and just encourage folks to go and do that formal trail incident report. It's super helpful, gets the information to the people who can work a solution out.
Great. Jennifer is wondering, we have a book outlining the Superior Hiking Trail by section, kind of like what is on your website. I think it's a couple years old. How often is it updated or for trail changes?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does update pretty regularly. So we're on our 9th edition. So I do encourage people, people get really attached to their guidebooks. They write little notes in the margins about maybe the sections they hiked and what day and who they were with. And all of those things are great for memories, but they're not going to help you or get, oriented for your next trip. So you do have to kind of stay up to date on those sections. So we are on our 9th edition, and we'll be updating again this coming year. So it's usually about every 2 to 3 years we are updating, we are providing updates. And like I said, in combination, even with an older book and visiting our website, you should be able to figure out where the discrepancies are and where some of maybe the larger reroutes are. I think the big thing is mileage planning, because our mileage does change when we do reroutes. So if you're only planning a 5-mile hike and it turns out to be a 7.5, could be a little bit of a slog.
Sabrina was wondering, when is the busiest time of year for hiking on the trail?
Yeah, we call our trail season May through November, but really, like I said, people hike year round. I would say after Memorial Day, so starting in June here, it will start getting busier. Weekends are usually quite busy. If there is a popular section of the trail that you're interested in visiting, I do encourage people to maybe if they want a more intimate, quieter experience with that section of trail, to consider, a visit during the week or a slightly off season. But I would say our busiest time of year is fall color because of all of those vistas and overlooks. It is very, very popular for people to want to go and do some really fun photography along the trail. And so that's probably by far our busiest time of year is that fall color.
Great. And Sue has a great question. Are there any segments that would have end-to-end hiking? Not an overly popular thing in the United States, but in other countries, end-to-end hiking is gaining popularity for sure. So
I guess I don't know what she means by and
in
you mean
end to end, so places that would have lodging and a day hike in
end to
between.
end. Okay, sorry, I thought you were saying end to end. End to end. We do not have recommendations per se on that, but it is a fairly easy to design your own. There are a few inns or lodges along the shore that do provide shuttle service to SHT trailheads. So that would allow you, I believe Odyssey is one of them. And what that allows is that you don't have to worry about pickup or drop off. That's a very nice feature that people are looking for. We do also have some amenities. There's Cove Point, which is a popular lodge. They have added some glamping campgrounds. It's off a short spur. So if you need a night off of one of our primitive campsites, or that's just not your thing, there are other options. Also, as you know, you're going to be going through those state parks. And state parks have, just a higher level of amenities. If you want a hot shower, access to water, of course, that might be more of your speed. And so folks will often build their hiking trips or their hiking plan to accommodate a stopover at one of those 8 state parks.
Great suggestions. So Jeff was wondering, with increased usage, what are you seeing, or are you seeing more wear and tear on the trail? If so, how are you dealing with those issues?
Yeah, we're seeing more use, and the popularity of hiking, trail running, all of those things, along with what we call longer shoulder seasons. So more spring and fall, where we're experiencing kind of freeze thaw cycle. The trail can get more damaged, experience more damage, and the trail has less time. With the increased use year round, we're seeing less time for the trail in some cases to heal between use. So what we are doing, and we just completed our first ever master plan, and we were able to deploy trail counters, infrared trail counters, to better understand what sections of trail are getting hit the hardest with visitors. And we also conducted what's called a inventory assessment, where we went out and had volunteers go out and assess our bridges, like behind me, boardwalks and other infrastructure, to see what kind of condition they were in. And so through those 2 sets of data, we're able to better understand where some of our areas that are getting hit hardest, or we might want to invest in the near future for improvements. So yeah, it is a challenge. We're very excited that so many people, especially during the pandemic, turned to the outdoors as a place of healing and connection with their friends. It was a safe place for people to gather, and that trend continues. And I think we have a unique opportunity, I think, to design sections of our trail to accommodate heavier use. We have a very popular section of our trail, Bean and Bear Loop, closed this year. for a renewal rehabilitation project that is really focused on armoring the trail. In some cases, providing just some simple design elements like what we call like a passing lane or a bump out so people can step off the trail safely, and also armoring it for heavier, more frequent use.
Great. It's good to be popular. So, there's Betsy and Sue, and I think I saw another one in here talking about shuttle services. Where can you find information? Is there a designated one? How much do they cost?
Yeah.
I know there's different places offer different shuttle services. Can you speak to that
Yeah.
real quick, or where they'd find information on that?
We do. So all the shuttle services are private. They're not run by the Superior Hiking Trail. We don't have any formal connection or collaboration with them. We do provide a list on our website, and maybe Cassie can find that on our website and throw that in the hyperlink there. But if not, I can drop it in later. But it is available on our website, and you can research which shuttle service will be best for you, but we make sure that they are licensed and insured properly for commercial use. And that is kind of the baseline level that we provide. So a lot of them only run on the more northern sections of trail, and Duluth, the southern section down to Jay Cook can be a little bit more challenging, though we do have things like Ubers and city buses in some cases. People can get creative in that regard as well. And we do, this is another great example of where you can do some research or reach out to the trail community if you want a referral on what folks think is a better or a good fit of a trail shuttle company for you. But like I said, we provide kind of the basics of what's out there, and the cost is determined, I believe, on the distance of where you're traveling. So I don't have an exact cost for you, but should be able to find some good resources online.
It's definitely a great option, especially if you're a solo hiker. And we have a couple questions about solo hiking. So,
Yeah.
Schneider's asking, is there any additional concerns if you're a solo hiker? And if you're solo hiking, is there places where you can maybe meet up and find others that are hiking too? So you mentioned Facebook. That would probably be a great resource there.
Yeah, I mean, folks, find one another on the trail. So oftentimes we call them campfire friends, so you're going to be at one of those campsites and you might bump into someone who's hiking around your pace and heading in the same direction, either southbound or northbound, and you can hike along with. The Facebook group is a great place to send out, if you're comfortable with that, sending it out into the universe of the dates or when you might be there and what you're looking for. There's also, this is separate from our Facebook page, but there are some women-specific Minnesota-based groups, Facebook groups that you can look and find online, and those can be helpful specifically for women-specific hikers. As far as safety issues, our trail, I'm very proud to say that, overall it's a very safe trail. I think just like anything, know before you go, and you can kind of run through the tools or things that you might want to choose to have with you. I think number one, always, and I do this even if I'm going out for an half-hour run on the trail, I tell someone where I'm going and when I should be back. And so having, check-ins is probably a really great idea. You do get cell phone service through most of the trail, but it's spotty and it depends a lot on your carrier. So that can be part of it as well. I like to personally not necessarily carry my phone on short hikes because I want that tech-free experience, but I carry a whistle. So I can be heard if something happened to me and I was off trail, I got lost, something happened. I think a whistle is a great way. We also have a list of what's called the 10 essentials you should carry always when you're out hiking, even if it's for a day hike. And that's available also on our website. Those are just helpful hints on how to prepare for your trip.
Great. And Alicia put a comment or a question in here. She is starting a through hike of the Spear Hiking Trail in 2 weeks.
Oh,
So
fun.
she's looking for people to connect with. And she
Mhm.
mentioned Facebook. That would be a great spot. So
Yeah.
super awesome. Glad you're able to do that. So John was asking, this is an interesting question. Access to wilderness is a nationwide problem for people with limited mobility. Are there any designated ADA compliant areas of the trail?
The Superior Hiking Trail in its nature is a natural surface footpath. We ourselves, while we connect to state parks and go through the city, some of our sections are alignments that are shared with other trails. For instance, when you're within the city of Duluth, you're also on the Duluth Lake Walk, which is an accessible trail, paved trail. But most of our trail is what would be considered more of a backcountry rugged trail. So we know that we primarily partner with our state parks in identifying if there are sections of trail that can be improved. And just recently, Age-Well Minnesota, through an Age-Well Minnesota grant, our local regional planning group had worked on identifying different sections of the trail that are more gradual, or the grade is more accessible, and their report should be coming out shortly, and that information we'll have on our website and hopefully benefit those who want to get out on the trail. But it's definitely a pretty rugged, rustic experience out there on the Spear Hiking Trail.
I can attest to that. It's a fun trail, but it can be tough in some sections. So Jennifer was asking about dog-friendly shuttle service. You will have to reach out to those, Jennifer, and ask them.
Yeah.
A couple thank yous in here. That's great. Lake Poseidon. Are bears a concern on the trail? I can attest to that one too. But
Yeah, I mean, hanging your food is going to be really important. And I know on a statewide level, we're getting a lot of press from the DNR and the Forest Service about how to hang food properly and proper storage containers. And so I just, in those cases, there are people who know better or can provide better resources. The DNR provides amazing resources along with diagrams. And I always tell people, go practice in your backyard. Your neighbor might be scratching their head wondering what you're doing out there. But if you haven't hung food before, you haven't done it for a while, or you have a new system or whatever, just go practice. And the same thing, recommend doing that with your tent and your pack, all your new gear, set it up, play around with it ahead of time, feel comfortable and confident before you get out on the trail.
it's definitely an important tip for sure. So
Mhm.
David was wondering more about some shuttle stuff. Cassie did put a link to the shuttle services, link to your page, the spearhiking.org. So please
Yeah.
visit that. And Celeste, and if we didn't get your question, I apologize. We were just about out of time, but how do I find a more moderate section for a 5 to 8 day out and back? So do you have one quick last tip to find one?
I would say, our trail, you have to do your homework. So while what might be easy for you might be not easy for someone else. So I just encourage you to spend some time on our website, exploring some options. And like I said, that Facebook group is a great place to ask more specific questions. And folks can chime in on what they think might be a good fit for your fitness level and ability.
That's great. And we're out of time. So Lisa, thank you so much. There's a ton of great information. I hope everybody gets a chance to get out there and experience a little bit of the Spear Hiking Trail. It's almost 300 miles of trail that you can hike. It's super awesome. I hope you can get out at least for an afternoon and just check a section of the trail. It's a good goal for the summer. So next week, our summer programs start. So everybody visit our website, mndnr.gov/discover. Next week, we're talking about bees. And the week after that, we're doing a little wild cooking. So sign up for our summer programs. And I hope to see everybody out and about this summer. Have a great time and be safe out there.